Have you ever looked back on your life and thought, oh, I regret this. I wish I would have done this different. I wish I wouldn't have done that. What if I had never? Oh, I want to talk about that today and hopefully help you to let go of all your regrets. Truthfully and honestly, you're exactly where you're meant to be. You're doing what you're meant to be doing. Your life has been an evolution, and if you're letting those thoughts creep in and you're entertaining them and you're even believing them, then they are draining your body of health, your mind, your energy. They're sucking the life out of you. You deserve to be happy and healthy right here, right now, regardless of anything that you may have been regretting. So hopefully I can help you out of that. And hey, if you are regretting cheating on your wife, but you're still doing it, yeah, okay, that's different. I want to be clear that this is not about saying everything is great for you all the time. But when we do have regrets, when we look back on the past, when we wish we would have done things differently, it's because today you're seeing through eyes that you couldn't see through then. Or even if you knew something wasn't good for you, today you have the capacity, a different state of consciousness that you can make different decisions. So that's one of the trickiest, toughest things about evolving through a body is, when we're kids, we get all this conditioning and then we're acting in these ways. Then we wake up and we start changing. Maybe we choose to act from love and awareness and acceptance and these, I'll call them higher vibratory, higher consciousness ways of being. The ego has this terrible trick of always looking back, going, I shoulda, woulda, coulda. Why didn't I? And then beating you up, right? Coming around trying to beat you up because it's always going to be trying to create a problem. If you start unwinding all the egoic jobs, keeping you safe, being hyper vigilant, battle mode, fighting with people, putting people to all the things of separation, when you start unwinding those, you've got this poor entity that is just used to having a job to do. So then it's really going to start looking for problems, okay? It's going to find any little hook within your consciousness to grasp onto and make a problem even out of nothing. And it's funny, isn't it? The mind, the ego, our beautiful creativity. I always give it a lot of props for how amazingly creative it can be because it can take one situation and come up with 1,000 different reasons why maybe you should feel bad or sad or anything to trigger those old emotions and keep you stuck in that little loop. So call it regret, call it guilt, call it shame, all these heavy, very dense old energy emotions that are lacking one very important thing. They're lacking you, your awareness, your compassion, your wisdom, your knowing that this is an act of creation. Consciousness was acting out this separation here, and we're part of it. And so, everyone who's ever been in human form has act lacking integrity, lacking kindness, has act egoically, has tried to have power over others, the whole sex, power, greed dynamics on the planet. Everyone's been there. So to regret it would just be a huge waste of time. Instead, what I'd like you to do, if you have any regrets or if your mind goes back like mine, get some examples of your own life right now. I'll use mine where I shared in a recent video. Oh gosh, I miss my old house. Do you? Do you? No, I don't. That's the ego trying to hook in me, giving me a problem to solve, trying to make something wrong rather than letting everything be okay as it is and, letting my life, your life be graceful and easy and in the flow. It's like, oh no, we have to create a problem here. It's a it's a energy feeding thing within your own ego at times. So be aware of that because again, this entity is dissolving and it doesn't want to die. It wants a job. It wants to be useful. because it doesn't realize um, what is, okay? And maybe it does. Either way, it will try to hook you in. So let's flip things around. Any regrets? Any guilt? Any woulda, shoulda, coulda? What if, what if, what if? What if I would have? So let's flip it around now. And just whenever this comes up for you, start with how blessed I am that I can see today a different version of myself. I can see, let's say okay, so I have two kids, a 20-year-old and a 26-year-old, 27. Um, Now, as a parent, if there's any parents here, you have endless opportunity for regrets. I mean, you could never do it right. This could be with your pets, by the way, if you're, you know, maybe you have dogs instead of kids or whatever. Could be with friendships, could be with your own inner self, how you could have treated yourself better. It's so easy to look back and say, oh God, I wasn't adequate in this way, that way, the other way. Now, I promise you, if you are embodying who you truly are, then the ego is going to have even more firepower to tell you that you're doing things wrong or you did things wrong. Why? Because you're not following the socially accepted narratives of how a parent is supposed to be or how you're supposed to, I don't know, raise your puppies or whatever. So you have broken out of the mold and you're doing things your way. You're actually welcoming in more of your genius to be your own unique self. And that gives the ego even more concern and alarm and oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So for sure, it's going to look back and say, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, you didn't do this. And that regret or guilt or whatever, it's only going to drain you. So be very, very, very discerning when this comes up. Is it love or is it fear? Is it love or is it judgment? Judgment is any time there is a belief that is non acceptance, that is unaccepting, that is resistance. Judgment technically is any hard coded belief. Things should be this way, things should be that way. Maybe there is no certain way things are supposed to be. Maybe you can just be you. And maybe you being you at that point in your life was absolutely perfect. That is unconditional love. That is unconditional acceptance. That is the absence of judgment. That allows you to flow. That allows you not to keep siphoning your energy off into these old dimensions, not to be split, scattered, because this thing that comes and asks you to reflect and go, oh no, or oh yeah, it's just your own energy feeding ego. Hate to put it that way, but I'm just going to be blunt about it. It doesn't want to die. It wants to be fed. And one thing it really, really loves is to ruminate with its own emotions because that'll get you in a loop away from yourself and feeding the ego. So here's what you do instead. You look back and you go, well, how amazing. Good job, good job, good job, self. I can see now that, yeah, that wasn't my best choice. There are things that we've outgrown. Screaming at my kids, trying to control them, probably wasn't my brightest day, right? Boy, have some compassion for that girl. So your past selves, have a little compassion. Wow, she didn't know any better. Even when she did, she was so busy judging herself. She was in a loop of judgment that obviously, when you're trying to create change through judgment, you're not going to be able to change because that judgment anchors those very behaviors into place. Isn't that amazing? She wasn't loving herself. Oh my goodness. Let's have compassion for her. So give all of your past selves acceptance, patience, compassion, the very thing you'd give a friend or maybe a child. And then I want you to celebrate. Oh my God, how awesome. I can see all this today. I can see through the eyes of love, not judgment. Okay. And that choice, what would I do today? How would I address that today? Let's see. I don't know, my daughter spilled her Cheerios on the floor. Would I scream at her to pick them up? Or would I laugh? Would I even give a crap? No, I wouldn't. So who's to say I shouldn't have done that then? I would have never learned the difference. I wouldn't understand the difference between that energy and this energy. That's the contrast of duality. That's the contrast of density versus lightness. I wouldn't even know how amazing my life is now if I hadn't experienced all that density. How angry I felt, how frustrated, how irritable, how serious life was. Oh no, your Cheerios hit the ground, whatever. I wouldn't even know how beautiful this is if I hadn't experienced that. Okay, there's a million ways that you can work this out for yourself, but I do want you to celebrate yourself. Good job, good job, good job for how far you've come. So every time a regret comes up and you look back, you could say, what would I do today? How how would I approach that today? And if you get stuck, I used to say, what would creator Kathy do? Or, like the WWJD, what would Jesus do? I used to say, what would Will do? Because Will Linville was or is my, I guess, mentor, facilitator that I worked with for the last, whatever, 15 years. What would my creator self do? What would the highest version of me do? If you can't get anything, maybe you have an example. Not somebody to give your power away to, but again, going back to my last video, I talked about imitation. We learn to imitate until we get the basics down, and then we find our own expression, our own groove. So, a fancy word for beating yourself up and second guessing yourself and doubting yourself is regret. So if you find yourself beating yourself up, doubting yourself, second guessing yourself at all, this is all just a lack of trust in your true essence, in God, in the universe, in creation. And a lack of trust affects every part of you. It kind of gets in there, it's insidious. It's like it spreads like a virus. So pay attention to that. And if you see it, choose your perspective. Choose to know that all is well and that you are always only acting at your level of consciousness. And everybody in the world is all acting at their own level of consciousness. So we don't have to get upset or get mad or want them to change because they're changing. Everything's evolving here. It always is. Humanity's evolving. You don't have to force it. You don't have to hope it to happen. It's happening. It's the way of things. So give yourself some slack. And when these little insidious thoughts creep up, oh, hold on. That's judgment. That's not love. And choose love and know that you've always done the best you can. Have compassion for all your past expressions and love them unconditionally. That's technically what the whole world wants. Every human, whether they know it or not, everyone's seeking unconditional love, to be loved and accepted as they are. Nothing feels better, does it? Do you have any friends that just totally adore you as you are? Or do you totally adore yourself as you are? I hope you do. Nothing feels better than total acceptance, because really the ultimate fear is fear of not being loved, not being good enough. You could say being judged. So take a breath and accept all parts of you, everything you've ever done. Consider it good enough today. If there's anything in your life that you do need to change because it's still creating guilt, because you're not in integrity, you're being dishonest or you're lying, cheating, stealing, well, okay, take care of that, of course. And then give yourself a pat on the back for how far you've come. Thank you so much for joining me today. Namaste.